was here, and then I was not. And the most difficult to explain is that time and space disappeared at that point. There was no time. There was only just right now. And that's kind of disorienting. It's a beautiful state of mind to be in, but it's hard to explain. And I didn't feel like I was still Raymond. I was aware, but I wasn't Raymond. I was like a floating sphere of awareness. And I can only describe that feeling as a perpetual unfolding of now. And I can only describe this first part as a void. There was no light, there was no dark, there was no gravity, there was no sensations. It was just like nothing. So I'm here in this state of awareness, and I was trying to figure out what was going on. I could still, I wouldn't call it thinking, because it wasn't words. Like when we had a dialogue going in our heads, it wasn't that. It was more like emotions. But I couldn't grab on. I had no reference point to anchor myself to know who I was, what was happening. And I didn't remember the accent, and it was a very chaotic feeling. And I started getting scared. And as the fear ramped up, it started getting kind of out of control. I felt like, okay, I'm losing it here. And then I came to kind of a realization that I've lost my mind. I'm going crazy. You know, that's what's happening. I've gone crazy. And it kind of made sense to me. So the next thought I had, or emotion I had, I should say, was, if I'm going crazy, if I've lost my mind, there's nothing I can do about it. And that was when I released. I just let go. And as I let go, the pleasurable sensations started there. Peace and tranquility and quiet and relaxation and contentment, those kinds of emotions. And then they started ramping up, stronger and stronger and stronger, to a state of utter bliss. It was so beautiful. And I somehow became aware of a point of white light, and I don't know how I knew that, but I knew I had to go toward the light. And as I did that, the light got bigger and more beautiful and more intense until it utterly absorbed me. And I was the white light. It was infinite love. I mean, that's a big word, infinite. It was so perfect and complete. It was like wave after wave of cleansing white love. And it was just utterly liberating. It was beautiful. It helps me to close my eyes. I can go kind of right there when I do it. It was so perfect. And things that I would see weren't actually things. It was more like everything was made out of light. And everything was alive. It was very real, but in an experience like this, it's experiential. So words don't really say it. There was no time or space, but time and space are built right into our language. And so it sounds like a series of events and that I was somewhere in a place, but it wasn't like that. So I have no sense of how long it was, or because that just didn't exist. So here I am getting washed and cleansed in the white light, and I became aware of some sort of floating sphere of awareness like me. It was another being. It was my dog, Skippy, who had died a few years before. Now remember, I didn't remember the accident. None of this was making sense, but it was my dog, Skippy. And now he didn't have fur and a tail and a tongue. Yeah, he had no body, but he was a floating sphere of awareness like me. And I recognized it as Skippy, and he recognized me, and we were communicating. It was like telepathic and perfect communication. And it was love. It was Skippy, oh, I love you. I love you. Where are we? What's happening? And he was loving me right back. We absorbed each other and became the same being. And there was another presence of some kind, a floating sphere of awareness, but this one was more complicated. It was a masculine presence, which is hard to explain because there's no gender there. I didn't have a body, but he knew me. And he said, come here, I want to show you some things. And then he absorbed me. We became one. And I experienced what I could only call a download. It was like billions of questions were answered in just a moment, instantly. And I understood. I understood everything. How the universe works, what our purpose is, everything made perfect sense to me. And it was not like I learned anything. It was more like remembering. I already knew it. And I wish that I could bring some of that back with me. I don't think I can. It's not that I don't remember. There are no words for that. Because words they're just symbols. They're not the actual thing. So I'm not sure I could explain or give you anything from that download, but I understood it. That was the important part. And this being that had absorbed me, I don't have a name for this being. I don't know what it was. But he said, Raymond, I want to show you who you really are. And it opened up again to another level. It was like the entire universe opened up and shimmered in front of me. And the white light was alive. It was living love, if that's possible. So it was like everything opened up again. This is the most exquisite part. Imagine you're like the Hubble Space Telescope. You're up in space and you've focused in on a galaxy. Little points of light all swirling around to a hot, intense, glowing center. I was one of those points of light, and there was an infinite number of them. They were all alive, and we were all connected. It was like one thing, one being. This was God. But when I used the name God, or the word God, it's probably not what you're thinking. And I'm not religious at all, but somewhere in the Bible, I can't remember where this is, I saw a passage where God was referring to him, herself, as I am that I am, which is perfect because God is like a proper noun. I am that I am is a verb, and that's what it was like. Everything was in action. And each of those little points of light was like every tsetse fly, every human being who had ever lived. And I was one of those points of light, and we were all connected, and we were singing. I mean, it was music, but it makes music as we understand it pretty weak in comparison. This was living and breathing and had color and dimension and all encompassing. It was alive. The music was alive, and we were singing to one another. We're all singing this, what I can only call it was like worship. It was like worship. And the song was, "We love you, we are love." It was so beautiful. I can kind of go right there. And somehow we told me, it's not your time, you have to go back.